I started saving for retirement in my mid 20s. When I got my first grown up job, I opened an RSP. I lived in Canada at the time. And I did a small contribution to whatever my employer match was. And that was my retirement effort, which was, I'm sure, less than 5% of my income for a very long time. Fast forward to 2017. I was working at a job that I didn't really like, and my commute was long. So I got into my car one night after work and I turned on most recent Tim Ferriss podcast. He was interviewing a guy by the name of Mr. Money Mustache. And that interview changed the trajectory of my life, not a word of a lie, from that point on. So, Mr. Money Mustache, if you've never heard, is one of the, let's call them godfathers or goats of the early retirement movement. So, the interview he did with Tim Ferriss was all about how he worked as a software engineer until the age of 30 and saved like a crazy person till he had $1 million in the bank. And then he let go of his job and became a full-time dad and decided that he was never going to work in traditional employment again. So he was financially independent and he retired early, which is the acronym for FIRE, financial independence, retire early. And prior to this podcast, I had never heard of such a concept. I just thought people worked until they were 65 and off you go into the sunset. When I heard this, a whole new world opened up to me, a whole new possibility and idea of choosing to save now so that I could have my future be exactly what I wanted it to be. And my mind was blown. From that point on, I never looked at money the same way again. So when I talk about the things that I did to accelerate my retirement, it starts with understanding what's even possible, because you can't set a goal that you're not even aware exists yet, right? So the very first thing I did was to become aware that early retirement was a thing. And the interview gave some basic math on how to consider when you are actually ready to retire from a financial standpoint, but more so just the idea of people retiring before traditional retirement age was just so incredibly inspiring to me that it was the biggest game changer, I would say, of any of the things that I'm going to share with you. So from that point on, the next thing I did to accelerate my early retirement was to educate myself. And I'm not talking about math equations here, because math is the bane of my existence. And prior to understanding that I could retire early, I never really looked at personal finance education and financial literacy as something that I would ever want to do, because I'm very bad at math. I'm very bad with numbers in general. And I had this belief that financial literacy was about understanding numbers. And honestly, nothing could be further from the truth. Financial literacy is about self-awareness and making choices based on values and priorities rather than, what's available and what other people are doing. And mostly it's just about understanding what it is you want in life and making choices in that direction. Financial literacy is more about personal philosophy than it ever will be about math. And granted, there's certain aspects of personal finance that relate to math, especially when it comes to taxes and things like that. And I know enough to be dangerous, but I am never going to be a tax expert, nor would I ever want to be. So in those areas, I like to farm certain things out. But again, I know enough to know what I need at any given time. And again, it has very little to do with math. So I dove in headfirst into all kinds of personal finance blogs. That's the way I like to learn. I wanted to learn through story and personal experience rather than picking up a book that was written by a financial expert who's going to give me dry, boring information that's just not going to get into my noggin. So I looked for inspiration in the blogosphere at the time. This was, again, 2017, and just started reading the practices and behaviors of people who are generous enough to share what they were doing, who I could relate to, and I saw parts of myself in them, thinking if they could do it, I could do it too. And that was the best education in personal finance I could ever want to get. The third thing I did that accelerated my early retirement trajectory tremendously, quite honestly, was to experiment with minimalism. So at the time I was following the minimalists, and they have this challenge where for 30 days, you're going to give away things. So on day one, you're giving away one thing. On day two, you're giving away two things, all the way up to giving away 30 things on the 30th day. So that's a lot of things. And at some point, Usually around day 10, they say it starts to get really hard. And it's true. But I did it. And it was such an eye opener because every day I would collect something that I knew I was going to give away. I didn't give it away immediately that day. I just put it in a corner in a hallway where I was going to get rid of them all at once, either to donate or to sell or something like that. So I saw the accumulation of things pile up in this corner, and it was mind blowing by about day 14. It was humbling that all of these things, this mountain of stuff that I had spent money on, was now stuff that was going out the door. And I don't even remember the last time I'd used half of it, because obviously if it was something I was using every day, I wasn't going to get rid of it, right? So these are things that I had purchased with my hard-earned money, and now they were sitting in a corner collecting dust. And I was having a hard time finding homes for a lot of these things. I was asking friends if they wanted certain things. I was trying to sell things rather than just sending it all to Goodwill. And I was having trouble getting rid of some of it. So that goes to show you just how much we accumulate without thinking, or I shouldn't say we, me, we being the royal me, how much I was buying stuff and just letting my money go out the door and accumulating all this clutter that was not adding to my life, because half the time I'd forgotten I even had the damn thing and I clearly wasn't using it for the value I thought it was going to give me. That was such an eye opener. And I'm not suggesting that to become early retired faster, you should just give away all your belongings. I am not saying that at all. I love the things that are in my home, and the things that I have are things that I choose to keep intentionally. But that one exercise was so eye-opening that I never purchased anything through the same lens as I'd previously done. I was purchasing things for entertainment, to make myself feel better because other people said they were great or something was great, so I should get it too. Or just things were coming at me through advertisements or influencers and stuff like that. And I wasn't thinking twice about spending money on it. And when I think about how much money I could have instead of that pile of crap that I could barely give away, I could have retired even more sooner than that. So I recommend anyone do that challenge just to understand where their money is going. It is such an eye-opening behavior, and you will not regret it. The next thing I did to accelerate my early retirement was to get really clear on where my money was going. And this is far beyond like the extraneous purchases that I used to make. I'm talking about like the money that goes towards subscriptions or utilities or your mortgage or things that just come out of your bank account and you're not aware of it. So you're not asking yourself the question as to whether or not it's really relevant or adding any value to your life anymore. So I recommend doing this monthly, really, to have some sort of a process where you go through all of your credit card transactions just to make sure that you know exactly what they are. Because the worst thing you can do is like do this once a year or once every couple of years and find big random payments that you have no idea where they came from. And so much time has passed that there's nothing you can do about it. So just a cursory look at your credit card statements once a month is definitely really good financial hygiene. But what I also like to do at the end of the year, and I'm actually recording this on the 31st of December, so I plan to do this today, is to go into my money app. I use Empower, but there's a lot of different money apps. Another great one is Monarch, so I'll leave links to these below. But basically, the idea is to have your bank accounts and your credit cards connected to an app where you can have a dashboard view of your financial picture. And these apps are able to go back into your banking history and give you like snapshots of what you spent in the year and on what category. So you can know exactly how much went to housing, how much went to clothes and food or dining out, whatever it is that you are spending money on. And to have that bird's eye view of this is how much I spent, particularly on Amazon, oh, that's the most painful one, is so helpful because it gives you the reality of where your money's going and the opportunity to say either, yes, this is money that I want to put in this area, or no, like this is not something I value and I want to move money to different areas like my retirement savings or something else that's going to give you more value. The whole premise behind this is that knowledge is power. So the more you know where your money is going, the more it's going to go in the places you want it to and away from the places that you either don't care about or don't want it to go. And giving yourself this annual reflection period not only enables you to look at where your money is going and decide whether or not you want it to continue going in those directions or if you want to course correct, but it also gives you the opportunity to evaluate things that might be wrong or a red flag. So highly recommend doing that. Knowledge is power. Know where your money is going so that you can make conscious decisions about funding what's important to you and not funding that which is not. The last thing I did to accelerate my retirement, and again, I've done this several times since, but it started in 2017, was to really get clear on what my priorities were. Prior to listening to this podcast or getting this bug in my ear about retiring early, I had just spent money on things to make my life more comfortable or convenient, or things that I thought were cute, or, just stuff that most people spend money on. And just recently, I came by a spreadsheet of an old budget of mine from years and years ago. I was spending like $300 every time I went to the hair salon. I was spending $300 a month on dog walkers. I was spending like $200 to $300 a month at Nordstrom, and my car payment was around $400. Like, just crazy things that I used to spend money on that I would no longer in a million years spend money on, and I haven't missed them a bit. And I'm not saying I'm never going to the hairdresser again or never paying anyone to take care of my dog. But the things that I was paying on a regular monthly basis just for convenience and comfort that I didn't really need added up to a mind-blowing amount that had I had the wherewithal to truly ask myself, do I need to do this? Do I need to spend $300 a month every month on a dog walker? I would have accelerated my retirement so much faster. But I mean, hindsight's 2020. And once I finally became aware of my priorities, number one being freedom from having to work a job I never want to work again, then everything changed and I was able to flow money in a direction that was going to afford me that freedom rather than afford me the comfort of not having to walk my own dog on a rainy afternoon because I pay a dog walker to come do that, even when I'm working from home. Yes, I used to spend money on crazy things. So the point here is that knowing what your priorities are gives you the ability to put more and more resources towards those things. Everything else that's not a priority or that's just not important or that you don't really care about, those are the areas where you want to be strategically frugal and just spend as little money as possible or be creative in those areas as much as you can. And doing that has been not only like a big game changer in terms of finances, but it's almost fun. It's like gaming your own life in terms of funding what's most important and then leaving the rest to just figure itself out or let it go away. And if you don't really care about it and it goes away, you probably won't even notice anyways. So those are the 5 things that truly did accelerate my retirement from 2017 when I first learned about early retirement to the point we're at today. I'm recording this on December 31st. 2025, and I am now officially retire-ish, meaning that I'm mostly retired, but I also have a part-time business. So on that note, I hope that some of my ideas have resonated and so you can implement them in your own life and get to your freedom goal that much sooner. Thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you soon.